Welcome back to AU Family Channel, and thank you so much for being here. It truly means the world to have you as one of our loyal listeners. If our stories have ever touched your heart, we are so grateful that you keep coming back to spend this time with us. So find somewhere comfortable, take a slow, deep breath, and let us begin today's story, together. When I was 17, a teacher named Mr. Hale failed me on a paper I had worked on for weeks, and I hated him for it with the pure, righteous fury that only a wrong teenager can summon. I was certain he was cruel, unfair, out to get me. It took me years to understand that failing me was the kindest and most courageous thing any teacher ever did for me, and that he had risked his own standing to do it, because he saw something in me that I could not yet see in myself. This is the story of the teacher everyone thought was too hard, and how his hardness turned out to be the deepest form of belief. Mr. Hale taught senior English, and he had a reputation. He was the hard one, the demanding one, the teacher whose class you dreaded because he refused to give out the easy grades that everyone else handed over like candy. Other teachers wanted to be liked. Mr. Hale did not seem to care whether we liked him at all. He cared about one thing, whether we were actually learning, actually thinking, actually becoming capable of something real. And to a school full of students who had learned to game the system, to do the minimum and collect our comfortable grades, Mr. Hale was an obstacle, an inconvenience, a man who kept insisting we could do better when we had no interest in doing better at all. I was a good student, or so I believed. I had coasted through school on a combination of natural ability and the willingness of most teachers to reward the appearance of effort rather than the real thing. I knew how to write papers that looked impressive without saying anything, how to perform intelligence without actually doing the hard work of thinking. And it had always worked. Teachers loved me. My grades were excellent. I had built an entire academic identity on being smart, and I had never once been truly challenged, never once been forced to find out what I was actually capable of, because no one had ever asked me to. And then I walked into Mr. Hale's classroom. From the very first assignment, Mr. Hale saw through me. He handed back my first paper, the kind of polished, empty writing that had earned me top marks for years, and it was covered in red ink, and at the bottom he had written a single devastating sentence. "This is well written and says nothing, and I think you know that." I was stunned. And I was angry, because he was right, and being seen through is infuriating when you have spent years perfecting a performance. No one had ever called me on it before. Every other teacher had been fooled by the polish. Mr. Hale was not fooled for a second, and worse, he seemed disappointed, as if he had expected more from me, as if he could see a real thinker underneath the performer and was annoyed that I was hiding him. For the first few months, Mr. Hale and I were locked in a quiet war. I kept turning in my usual polished, empty work, and he kept refusing to reward it, giving me grades far lower than I was used to, grades that shocked me, that threatened the whole academic identity I had built. And I kept getting angrier, kept telling myself he was unfair, too harsh, that he just did not appreciate my abilities. I complained about him to my parents, to my friends, to anyone who would listen. The hard teacher, the unreasonable one, the man who could not see how smart I was. I was so busy being wrong that I could not yet hear what he was actually telling me, which was that I was capable of so much more, and that he refused to pretend otherwise. The paper that changed everything was our major assignment of the year, a long essay that would count for a huge portion of our grade. And I decided, out of a mix of arrogance and laziness, to do what I had always done, to write something polished and impressive sounding and fundamentally hollow, and to trust that it would be good enough. I spent weeks on it, making it sound brilliant, and I turned it in confident that even Mr. Hale would have to reward work this slick. And he failed it. Not a low grade. A failing grade, the first F of my entire life, with a note that said, "I know exactly what you are capable of, and this is not it." I will not pass work that insults your own intelligence. Try again, for real this time. I was devastated, and then I was furious. A failing grade, on a paper I had worked on for weeks, that would tank my grade in the class, that threatened my standing, my college applications, my whole carefully built identity as the smart kid. I was certain it was an injustice, an act of cruelty, a teacher abusing his power to punish a student he did not like. I went home in a rage. My parents, to their credit, did not immediately take my side. They read the paper, and they read Mr. Hale's note, and my father, who knew me better than I knew myself, said something I did not want to hear. He said, "Is he wrong?" And I could not answer, because underneath my fury, I knew he was not wrong at all. I went to confront Mr. Hale, ready for a fight. I marched into his classroom after school, and I demanded to know why he had failed me, why he was being so unfair, why he could not see how hard I had worked. And Mr. Hale listened to all of it, calmly, and then he said the thing that began to break me open. He said, "I did not fail you because you are not smart. I failed you because you are brilliant, and you are hiding it, and you have been getting away with hiding it your whole life, and I am the only teacher who cares enough about you to refuse to let you keep hiding." He said, "Everyone else rewards your performance. I am trying to reach the real thinker underneath, before you bury him forever." That stopped me cold. No one had ever said anything like that to me. Every other adult in my academic life had rewarded my performance, had told me I was wonderful, had asked nothing more of me than the polished emptiness I was happy to provide. And here was this man, this hard, demanding, unpopular man, telling me that he expected more precisely because he believed I had more, that his refusal to reward my hollow work was not cruelty but the deepest form of respect, that he was the only one who cared enough to fight for the real me against the fake me I had spent years constructing. I did not know what to say. I had come for a fight and instead I had been seen, more truly than I had ever been seen in my life. I went home and I read my failed paper again, and this time I read it honestly, and I saw exactly what Mr. Hale saw. It was empty. It was slick and impressive and it said absolutely nothing, because I had never risked saying anything real, never risked the vulnerability of an actual thought, an actual argument, an actual piece of myself on the page. I had hidden behind polish my whole life because polish was safe, because if you never really try, you can never really fail, because a performance can be perfect but a real attempt can be wrong. Mr. Hale had failed my performance because he wanted my truth. And sitting there with that failed paper, I decided, for the first time in my life, to give it to him. I rewrote the paper from scratch, and it was the hardest academic work I had ever done, because for the first time I was not performing. I was actually thinking, actually wrestling with the material, actually trying to say something true and risking being wrong. It was terrifying. Every polished, empty sentence I could have hidden behind, I made myself replace with a real one, a vulnerable one, an actual thought that could actually be judged. I poured myself into that paper in a way I never had before, and when I turned it in, I felt something I had never felt about my schoolwork. I felt exposed. Because for the first time, the work was actually me, not a performance of me, and if he failed it now, he would be failing the real thing. Mr. Hale did not fail it. He gave it a high grade, but that was not what mattered. What mattered was the note at the bottom, which I have kept to this day. It said, "There you are. This is the thinker I knew was hiding in there. Never bury him again." And I sat there reading those words, "There you are," and I understood that Mr. Hale had not been my enemy at all. He had been the first person in my entire academic life to actually believe in me, to see past the easy, likable performance to the real, capable person underneath, and to care enough about that person to risk my hatred in order to call him out of hiding. He had failed me on purpose, to save me. And it had worked. Everything changed after that paper. Not just my writing, but my whole relationship to learning, to effort, to myself. I stopped performing and started actually trying, which meant I started actually risking failure, which meant I started actually growing. My work got harder and realer and, for the first time, genuinely mine. And Mr. Hale, having broken through, became not my enemy but my greatest champion, pushing me, challenging me, refusing to let me slide back into the safe empty polish, holding me to the standard of the real thinker he had called out of hiding. The teacher I had hated became the teacher who shaped me more than any other, and it was all because he had cared enough to fail me when everyone else was content to let me coast. I learned, over that year, why Mr. Hale was so hard, why he refused to give the easy grades, why he was willing to be the unpopular teacher that students complained about. It was because he actually cared. The teachers who handed out easy A's were not being kind. They were being lazy, or they were being cowards, unwilling to risk a student's displeasure by demanding the best. Real caring, Mr. Hale taught me, sometimes looks like hardness. It sometimes looks like a failing grade and a note that says you are capable of more. It is so much easier to tell someone they are wonderful and let them coast than to tell them the harder truth, that they are capable of more and you refuse to let them settle for less. Mr. Hale did the hard thing, every day, because he cared. The low point in this story is not mine. It came later, when I understood what Mr. Hale's hardness cost him. Because a teacher who refuses to give easy grades, who fails students on purpose to push them, who insists on real work in a system that rewards the appearance of it, makes enemies. Parents complained about him. Students gave him poor evaluations. Administrators, focused on grades and satisfaction scores, pressured him to be easier, to give the students what they wanted, to stop making waves. Mr. Hale spent his whole career under pressure to lower his standards, to become one more teacher handing out empty A's, and he refused, year after year, at real cost to himself, because he believed his students deserved better than to be lied to about their own potential. I did not fully understand this until my final year, when there was a real push to force Mr. Hale out, driven by parents angry that their coasting children were not getting the easy grades they felt entitled to. And I watched the man who had saved me, who had believed in me when no one else did, come under attack for the very hardness that had been his gift to me and to so many others. And this time, unlike the frightened performer I had been, I did not stay silent. I had learned, from Mr. Hale himself, that real caring sometimes means doing the hard, unpopular thing. So I did it. I stood up for the teacher who had once failed me, and I told everyone who would listen exactly what his hardness had really been. I organized the students, the ones who understood, the ones Mr. Hale had reached, and we spoke up. We went to the administration, and we told them the truth, that Mr. Hale was the best teacher we had, precisely because he was the hardest, that his refusal to give easy grades had taught us more than all the easy A's combined, that he had believed in us enough to demand our best when everyone else was content with our worst. And it turned out we were not few. There were so many of us, students Mr. Hale had failed and challenged and ultimately transformed, and we filled that meeting, and we defended the hard teacher against the people who wanted him gone. And the truth is, we saved him, the way he had saved us, by caring enough to do the hard thing. Mr. Hale kept his job, and he taught for many more years, and he never once lowered his standards, never once started handing out the easy grades, never once stopped caring enough to fail a student who was hiding, in order to call out the real thinker underneath. And every year, a new group of students hated him at first, exactly as I had, and every year, some of them broke through, exactly as I had, and discovered that the hardest teacher was the one who believed in them most. He was, I came to understand, doing the most important work in that whole school, the deeply unglamorous, deeply unpopular work of refusing to lie to young people about their own potential. And almost no one appreciated it until years later, if at all. There is a moment I hold on to, from my graduation. I had gotten into a good college, on the strength of the real writing Mr. Hale had called out of me, and as I was leaving the ceremony, I found him, and I finally said the thing I had wanted to say. I thanked him for failing me. I told him it was the best thing any teacher had ever done for me, that his F had taught me more than every A I had ever collected, that he had seen the real me when I was hiding and cared enough to call him out. And Mr. Hale, this hard, undemonstrative man, got tears in his eyes, and he said, "That is why I do this. Not for the ones who like me. For the ones who finally understand. Go be the real thing, always." And I have tried to, every day since. I learned so much from Mr. Hale about the difference between kindness and niceness, which I had confused my whole life. Nice is easy. Nice tells you what you want to hear, gives you the easy grade, rewards your performance, lets you coast. Kind is hard. Kind tells you the truth, demands your best, refuses to let you settle for less than you are capable of, even at the cost of being disliked. Every nice teacher I ever had let me hide. The one kind teacher refused to. And the kindness cost him, made him unpopular, made him the target of complaints, because most people cannot tell the difference between someone who is being cruel and someone who cares enough to be hard. Mr. Hale cared enough to be hard. It changed my life. The deepest thing I learned is that being believed in does not always feel good in the moment. We think that belief looks like praise, like encouragement, like being told we are wonderful. But the deepest belief often looks like a demand, like someone refusing to accept less than your best, like a failing grade and a note that says I know you are capable of more. Mr. Hale believed in me more than any teacher who ever praised me, and his belief came disguised as an F. It taught me to look differently at the hard people in my life, the demanding ones, the ones who refuse to just tell me I am great. Sometimes the person pushing you hardest is the one who believes in you most. Sometimes the failing grade is the truest form of faith. The memory I treasure most came years after I graduated, when I had become a writer, doing the real work Mr. Hale had first called out of me, and I sent him a copy of something I had written, something true and vulnerable and entirely mine, with a note that said, "No more hiding, thanks to you." And he wrote back, in the same hand that had once written "This says nothing and I think you know that," a single line. There you are. Still. The same words he had written on my rewritten paper all those years before. There you are. And I understood that Mr. Hale had given me not just a lesson but a whole way of being, a commitment to being the real thing instead of the performance, that would shape every word I ever wrote and every choice I ever made. I think often about how close I came to never learning what Mr. Hale taught me. If I had gone through my whole education with nice teachers who rewarded my performance, I would have graduated as a polished, empty performer, a person who had never been challenged, never risked a real thought, never discovered what he was actually capable of. I would have coasted into a life of hiding, of settling, of never quite becoming the real thing. And it took one hard teacher, willing to be hated, willing to fail me, willing to risk his own standing, to break me out of that safe, empty performance and call out the real person underneath. One hard teacher, against a whole system of nice ones. He saved me from a lifetime of hiding. Mr. Hale taught me to value the hard truth over the comfortable lie, in every part of my life. I learned to seek out the people who would tell me the truth, who would demand my best, who cared enough to be hard, and to be wary of the endless supply of people happy to tell me what I wanted to hear. And I learned to try to be that hard, honest presence for others, to care enough about the people I love to tell them the difficult truth when they need it, even at the cost of their momentary displeasure. It is not easy. It is so much easier to be nice, to hand out the easy praise, to let people coast. But Mr. Hale taught me that real love, real care, real belief, sometimes has to be hard. And that the people who are willing to be hard for us are rare and precious. I want to say something about courage, because that is really what Mr. Hale had. It takes no courage to be nice, to give the easy grades, to tell people what they want to hear. Everyone likes you for it. What takes courage is to be hard when hardness is needed, to fail a student for their own good, to risk being hated in order to serve someone's deeper interest. Mr. Hale had that courage every single day, for his whole career, at real cost to himself. He chose, over and over, to be the disliked teacher who actually helped rather than the beloved teacher who actually failed his students by never challenging them. That is a rare and difficult kind of courage, and the world almost never rewards it. But it is the courage that changes lives. It changed mine. People sometimes ask me whether it is really kind to fail a student, to be that hard, whether Mr. Hale went too far. And I always tell them the same thing. Ask me what my life would have been if he had been nice instead. I would have been a hollow performer, coasting on empty polish, never discovering the real thinker I could become. His hardness was the greatest gift of my education, and his failing grade was the truest act of belief anyone ever showed me. The question is not whether it is kind to fail a student. The question is whether it is kind to let a capable person hide forever behind a performance, to reward their worst instead of demanding their best. Mr. Hale refused to be kind in that lazy, harmful way. He was kind in the hard, real way. And it saved me. Mr. Hale passed away a few years ago, and his memorial was full, packed with former students, and one after another we stood up and told the same story in different shapes. He failed me and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. He was so hard and I hated him and then I understood. He believed in me when no one else did, and his belief came disguised as a demand. A whole room full of people whose lives had been changed by a teacher who cared enough to be hard, who risked being hated to serve us, who refused to lie to us about our own potential. The hard teacher, the unpopular one, mourned by hundreds of people whose real selves he had called out of hiding. It was one of the most moving things I have ever witnessed. If there is one thing Mr. Hale taught me, it is that the people who challenge us hardest are so often the ones who believe in us most, and that real care sometimes has to be hard. We live in a world that confuses niceness with kindness, that rewards the easy praise and resents the difficult truth, that would rather be told we are wonderful than be pushed to become better. But the people who love us enough to be hard on us, to demand our best, to refuse to let us hide, are giving us the deepest gift there is. Look again at the demanding people in your life, the ones who push you, who are not content with your performance. Some of them do not care about you. But some of them care more than anyone. Learn to tell the difference. And treasure the ones who care enough to be hard. I learned that the truest belief often does not feel like belief in the moment. It feels like pressure, like demand, like a refusal to accept less than your best. Mr. Hale never once told me I was wonderful. He told me I was capable of more, over and over, and backed it up with grades that refused to reward my hiding. And that was a far deeper belief than all the empty praise I had ever collected, because it was belief in the real me, the capable me, the me I was too scared to become. If someone in your life is pushing you, demanding your best, refusing to just tell you that you are great, do not be so quick to resent them. They may be showing you the deepest belief anyone has ever shown you. They may be the only one who can see the real you, hiding, and cares enough to call you out. There is an image I carry from that year, and I return to it whenever I am tempted to hide behind a performance, to do the easy, empty, polished thing instead of the hard, real, vulnerable one. It is the sight of that failing grade at the top of my paper, and the note underneath, "I know exactly what you are capable of, and this is not it." That grade was the moment my real education began, the moment someone finally refused to let me hide, the moment I was called out of the safe performance and into the risky, real work of actually becoming myself. I return to it whenever I catch myself performing instead of being real. And I hear Mr. Hale's voice. This is not it. You are capable of more. And I stop hiding, and I try again, for real. The memory that means the most to me is the 2 words he wrote, twice, years apart. There you are. He wrote them first on my rewritten paper, when I finally gave him the real thing, and he wrote them again years later when I sent him my published work. There you are. As if the real me had been there all along, hiding, and his whole hard, demanding, unpopular project had been simply to call that real me out into the light. There you are. It is what I hope to say, now, to the people I care about, when they finally stop hiding and become the real thing. It is what a great teacher does. Not fill you with information. Call the real you out of hiding, and say, there you are. I see you. Never bury yourself again. I asked Mr. Hale once, near the end of his life, whether it was ever hard for him, being the disliked teacher, absorbing all those complaints, all that pressure to be easier, year after year. And he said yes, of course it was hard, that no one enjoys being disliked, that there were nights he wondered if it was worth it. But then, he said, every so often, a student would break through, would stop hiding, would become the real thing, and would come back years later to say thank you. And that, he said, one student truly reached, was worth 100 complaints. He did not do it for the many who resented him. He did it for the few who finally understood. And he taught me that this is enough, that reaching even a few, truly, is worth all the hardness it costs. These days, I try to be, for the people in my life, what Mr. Hale was for me. Not nice. Kind. Which means sometimes telling the hard truth, demanding the best, refusing to let someone I care about hide behind a performance. It does not always make me popular. Sometimes people resent it, the way I once resented Mr. Hale. But I have learned that the deepest care sometimes looks like hardness, that the truest belief sometimes looks like a demand, and that the people worth being for others are the ones willing to risk being disliked in order to actually help. Mr. Hale gave me that. Every time I care enough to be hard for someone, to tell them the truth, to call out the real them from behind their hiding, I am carrying him forward. There you are, I try to say. There you are. If there is one thing I want you to take from Mr. Hale's story, it is to look again at the hard people in your life, the demanding ones, the ones who refuse to just tell you what you want to hear. Some of them are cruel, yes. But some of them care about you more than all the nice people combined, and their hardness is the truest belief anyone has ever shown you. The teacher who fails you, the mentor who pushes you, the friend who tells you the difficult truth, may be the person who sees the real you most clearly and cares enough to call you out of hiding. Do not mistake their hardness for cruelty. Learn to tell the difference. And treasure the rare ones who care enough to be hard for your sake. I learned that the greatest gift you can give someone is not to tell them they are wonderful, but to believe they are capable of more, and to refuse to let them settle for less. Empty praise is easy and it helps no one. Real belief is hard, and it demands, and it sometimes disappoints in the moment, and it is the thing that actually calls a person into their fullness. Mr. Hale believed I was capable of more, and he refused to reward my hiding, and that refusal was the making of me. If you love someone, believe in their best, and hold them to it, even when it is hard, even when they resent you for it. That is the deepest love there is. It is the love that calls the real person out of hiding. It is the love a hard teacher once showed me, and it changed my whole life. Thank you so much for staying with me all the way to the end of this story. It truly means the world that you are here. If Mr. Hale and his hard, courageous kindness moved your heart, Please give this video a like and subscribe to AU Family Channel, where a brand new story is waiting for you every single week. And remember what a teacher who failed me on purpose taught a hiding, performing boy. Real care sometimes looks like hardness, and the truest belief sometimes comes disguised as a demand. So this week, treasure the people who care enough to be hard on you, and dare to be the real thing instead of the performance. There you are. I will see you in the next one.